Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Max and I'm an intern at Sizigi. Today, Sizigi is bringing you a special event where we aim to discuss topics such as personal development, passions, and employability skills that can influence in a positive way your career. I'm extremely excited as I am joined today by a good friend of mine who is a medical student at the University of Toronto. He has successfully completed internships at NASA's GPL Pasadena, Autodesk, and now he's working at Google-owned laboratory in Canada. Known on YouTube simply as Vicarious Voyager, Tiezheng is rapidly expanding his viewership base worldwide. With over 87,000 subscribers and over 5.5 million views, his travel style videos are going viral one by one. I'm sure that we have a lot to cover today, so without any further ado, let me introduce you to Tiezheng.
Hi. Well, thanks for
How are you
that
doing?
introduction. Good. How are you? I'm doing good.
Fantastic. So guys, you can also have any if you have any questions, just type them down in the chat and we'll get back to them. All right. So, well, I think we should start at the beginning of it all. What was your childhood like and what did you aspire to be when you were younger?
Before we do that, I'd like to say that your hair is absolutely fabulous. You've definitely put a lot
Thank
more
you.
effort into it than I
I
have
like
today.
I like your background.
Thanks. I like your map. Childhood. Perhaps mine was a little bit less than normal. We did move around quite a lot, especially in my formative years, which would be primary school, secondary school, high school, because switching between the British and American system does that to you with these conceptions of how you call secondary, primary education. But I grew up a little bit in China. I grew up a little bit in Canada. I grew up a lot in Saudi Arabia, where I spent the most of my childhood in Riyadh. And throughout that experience, I've moved schools quite a bit. I'd say half a dozen schools in about a dozen years. And that does definitely, in perhaps a harsh way, teach you skills that makes it so that you have an easier time integrating with new friends. You're often an outsider, and that's definitely the biggest thing I think that I've learned from that childhood, but also just a worldview that is perhaps not as localized as some people get. Did get to see the world from many different perspectives, from many different cultures, languages, ways of life. So that has definitely been a very privileged part of my upbringing. But yeah,
That's
English
fantastic.
schools,
Do you have
American schools, yeah.
any favorite memory?
For schools, anytime I wasn't in trouble would be a favorite memory. I think I wasn't the most disciplined child in school, and my parents might be surprised to hear that because I seldom got them involved in the instances that I had. But school was pretty good for me. I fit in pretty okay. Didn't have any traumatic experiences. Didn't have any special experiences. Um, Attending the British International School in Riyadh, I did get to meet Prince William and Prince Harry,
Really?
which was
What was
kind
that
of
like?
cool. I was 7, so I didn't really care. We had to stand outside for a long period of time, and that was kind of uncomfortable. That was all I remember. Um, Prince
Do you have any
Harry did
pictures?
try to get us a day off of school. It's like for a royal occasion. The headmaster, the principal, wouldn't have it, so we didn't get a day off. But he tried, so that was very nice of him.
Sounds very interesting. What major did you decide to pursue? Did you have anything that you liked in school and you knew that I want to be working there?
Definitely leaning towards the sciences, the hard sciences, STEM perhaps, over humanities and literature. Not to say that I was excelling at the sciences over the others. I was kind of just treading water on both. But natural phenomenon definitely held my interest over literature. I do like a good book and like doing literary analysis over that or history. Definitely some of my hobbies, but over science and physics and chemistry and biology, I think the latter would be more of an interest towards me. So that's what I aim towards at the end of school. And there was also an influence from my parents. They're in the medical field; they're physicians, so just from the proximity and that diffusing of their everyday lives and how they go about living their lives kind of had an effect on me. Didn't necessarily know what I was going to get into at school for a major. But I liked genetics because I had a really good foundation in high school from an amazing biology teacher, Mr. Senef, who was incredibly well accomplished. He went to Stanford and Harvard. So I have no clue how he ended up teaching high school, but I definitely think he was paid enough to compensate for that. But because of him, I had this solid understanding of biology, human biology. So I felt comfortable doing that as a major. At the same time, I thought engineering was kind of cool because it was a challenge, and I like a challenge. There's a lot of tears and sweat over that, but that's the other major that I went into in the end, which I picked
Right.
1 year after I got into university.
So you're still studying?
Technically, I think I'm in grade 18 or 19 at this point, or 19th grade if you count from grade one. But I think most of us have lost count. But yeah, technically,
For
I'm
some
still in
people,
school.
nightmare actually.
Perhaps, but I wanted to say that it gives you fewer responsibilities, but it really doesn't at this point.
Right.
I don't have to teach classes this year, which is kind of nice for me because that was a major pain for me. I never really liked that. And I wasn't particularly good at being a TA or a teaching assistant or graduate teaching assistant. So there you go.
All right. Well, we are having viewers from universities all around the world, and
Mm-hmm.
these folks, they want advice and tips on how to get their first or desired internship or job. I
Mm-hmm.
think we can all agree that this tedious process of just applying to hundreds of places and receiving numerous rejections must be really stressful, yet
Mm-hmm.
rewarding if you are able to showcase your skills.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first internship like, and how did you get it?
My first internship was a lot of people's. A lot of people can relate to this. Is one that proximity or friends and family would get you. So I interned at my parents' hospital in my dad's laboratory, and that was great. It taught you a lot of skills dealing with people, dealing with evidence-based research, dealing with the work environment, dealing with responsibilities that are put on you. But that was also with training wheels on because I had people I knew from a very young age, pretty much family to me. So it was coded in a way. The first internship experience I had outside of that environment was in university, and it was another lab. It was a genetics lab, sorry, a biology lab, which is the general biology lab. I still to this day could not fathom as to what we were doing. I think it was just a lot of trial and error and teaching people basic skills. And I think that was a formative moment because that internship really sucked. It was every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they left the lab to a couple of interns to do just to carry on the research that a lot of the grad students and professors who had there. They just didn't want to come in on Sundays, so they gave you tasks like change this buffer, mix this solution. You gotta diffuse this, take this out of the fridge, put that into a fridge, incubate this. A lot of chores was pretty much what it was, and that really sucked. It was terrible in my mind. I was like, okay, I want to strive to do better, to be more ambitious with my interviews and my internships, so I don't have to do this again. And it went uphill from there, not because I tried harder, I think, but because that was rock bottom.
How old were you?
18. 18. That was the first year. That was fun in a way. It was a teaching moment.
What was after that?
After that was summer that year. I applied for a couple of things. I got an internship at a dental office, which I didn't take. But having decided to go into the sciences, the hard sciences of STEM, which eventually led to engineering the next year, I applied for a couple of places. I applied for SpaceX, applied for Raytheon, applied for Thales, applied for BAE Systems, I applied for JPL and a couple of other NASA labs. I got into a few. Some of them were paid, so they were kind of a cash grab. One of the ones that did actually pay was JPL, and they had a 6-week program. Or was it 5 weeks? I can't remember. But that was a NASA lab. That is the NASA lab that makes the Curiosity and Perseverance rover. So that's kind of cool.
That's very
Um,
exciting for many people. It's a dream, actually.
I suppose, but I feel like it's a little easier to get into than you would think. There are a couple departments that you get to choose from, and you get to choose two. And if you're lucky, you get to pursue both in one internship. If you're not, you don't. So I chose Earth Sciences and Orbital Dynamics. The first was kind of safe because no one, let's face it, wanted to do Earth Sciences. So I thought, at least I'd get into that. The other being Orbital Dynamics, that was very interesting and very cool just from the name of it. Dynamics, anything that says dynamics is cool. On a tangent, I also did apply for Boston Dynamics, didn't get in there because not smart enough. But yeah, so I did 6 weeks, and happily I got to do 2 weeks of Orbital Dynamics at the end of 4 weeks of Earth Sciences. So that was pretty cool.
That sounds fantastic. What was your favorite memory at NASA?
Just meeting people. There were a lot of nerdy kids who just, blew your mind. They're playing tag when they're 19 and 18. They have Pokemon cards, and people bring their laptops from home, and you see these just Frankenstein monsters of PCs, and people bring their desktops, and they had names for them. Just the people were interesting. You got to spend a lot of time with them, especially because they put you up into the dorms there. But they didn't pay terribly well. Some of the buildings weren't air conditioned, so there were ups and downs.
And it's California, after all.
Mm-hmm. In the summer.
Right. But when applying, what was your strategy? What are some essential things you did, maybe that you still do to this day?
At that point, I had a website for myself because I thought that was something that one of my predecessors told me. Just have a link to a place where on top of the 2-page CV that you submit, people can find out more about you. So I had that, and I was sure to make sure that Facebook was set to private before that happened. And that's one of the things I tell people, no one wants to see what you're doing on Facebook. Everyone's Facebook is embarrassing. Set it to private or delete it if you're applying for internships, because people will look you up. I know in some places it is technically illegal for companies to do a Facebook search or social media search for you, but individuals, that's not an issue. And individuals can, from their personal devices, look at that, and that's not really breaking any rules in a lot of places. And they do that. We do that. Everyone does that. They look you up on Google. They look you up on Facebook. So you have drunken photos taken at 3 a.m. on there, as I did. Make sure no one can see those. And just have this secondary place that is less formal, that you can show off your personality, what you've done before. If you have any art or anything like that, put that on there just so that people can associate a person with a 2-piece black and white piece of paper with perhaps a headshot on it, or even not. Because there's this idea of an empathy horizon where if people can't empathize with you, they really don't care too much about you. And that's, I guess, the meaning of the word. But that's, I think, definitely helped a lot. And also you can go into analytics if you have a personal website through a service and see who logged in when to see what, and what they liked and what they didn't like. So I don't really have that anymore, but I used to have that just when you don't have a whole lot to show on your CV. And I don't think it hurts too much to put a little bit of personality into your CV. I definitely had a little bit of humor. I worked at A&W for a little bit, which is a fast food chain here in Canada. And I just stacked up in there, that in there, along with a lot of other work experiences. And I'm not really sure what my job title was, but on the CV I wrote head fry cook or fry chef. Yeah, head fry chef. And they gave a reference just in case they ever wanted to follow up on that. And that worked for me. Maybe it won't work for you. I'm not giving you the recommendation of doing that. But I feel like with a lot of these younger tech companies who have a corporate culture of just a little bit more relaxation and more laissez-faire in their dealings, they don't wear suits and ties to work, then that could possibly fly. And you got to know your audience. If you're working for like Wall Street, or you want to get into a business-oriented company, if you're applying for Deloitte or Ernst & Young, I don't think that would work.
Yeah, so it's really important to showcase yourself, your personality, and sometimes resume CVs, they don't give you opportunity. That's why we have Sizigi here to step in and help all of the people who want the job. Yeah.
It adds a dimension to a frankly two-dimension piece of paper, and that's a metaphor I'd happily use because it is very two-dimensional. When they look at you through your accomplishments, they don't understand who you are, and they don't know how easy it will be to work with you. That's a major thing in people looking for interns and internships. That I've learned now as someone who has recently looked for interns, hired interns, looked for understudies, stuff like that. A lot of employers want to know how nice of a person you are going to be to work with on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of times that trumps a lot of accomplishments because you don't want to hire someone who kills the vibe in the office. And that's also a major factor that is hard to come across in just a resume or a CV.
Yeah, what's interesting, actually, not only the companies learn from you, but actually this is my first internship here at Sizigi. And the part of my application was to make a video about myself. It was like about 2 minutes. And while doing it, you're being creative and you learn more about your own self.
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. So what happened after your time with NASA?
I went back to school. That was sophomore year for our American viewers, so second year of university for everyone else. Not a whole lot happened that year. I was looking at options of what to do after school, after university. I thought about going to med school, looked at the requirements, thought about taking the MCAT. And it was a lot of preparation for post-secondary education, post-tertiary education, actually, I should say. So not a whole lot happened there in terms of internships. I did work for a lab at a local research institute over the summer, just teaching high school students basic lab skills. That was actually kind of nice because I got to meet a lot of cool people and eventually asked those people for references, which I felt comfortable doing because I was in charge of a lot of high schoolers, which is harder than you would think. But after that, and also because of that year, next year summer, I managed to find a job at Autodesk. And that was definitely by proximity because the lab I worked for the year before was 2 floors up from where Autodesk has their setup here in Toronto. And the building is kind of, the building that they work in is called Mars. It's called Mars Discovery District. And it's one of those acronyms where you forget what it stands for because no one actually remembers. But it's a pretty new building. It's very nice. A lot of research institutes, a lot of tech companies, a lot of fintech companies are in there, and they have social gatherings once a week at least, or they have like a donut morning, or they have an afternoon tea, and everyone mingles, and you just talk to each other. And I made a couple friends at Autodesk who eventually suggested that I apply, and they were the ones who vetted the application. So I think I got in a little easier than I would have had I just came from someone who was a stranger. Yeah.
It's all about the connections.
That is very much true. And perhaps it's a little unfair, but it also takes initiative for you to go out and meet people and make yourself known, I suppose.
Right. So you saying that you were in charge, so you were hiring people as well?
No, I was. Oh, you mean recently?
Yeah.
Okay, so recently, yes, for my current job, for my current PhD candidates program, we don't actually have to teach classes, which a lot of PhD students and grad students of other degrees here in Canada often do, just because we don't really have a specialty that we can really get into. However, we do take interns. Because people who want to get into this field of work, whether it be medicine, radiology, or computer learning neural networks, there are a lot of internships that the university and a lot of other institutes try to foster. So we take on what is essentially free labor, which is, no one's going to say no to that. But yeah, it's quite a cool internship. I think there's this idea that you don't have to do a whole lot of work other than be good at math. which has made it so that a lot of people apply every year. But it's fun doing the interview process, and there are a lot of bright kids, and there are a lot of people who you just think, okay, you won't fit in well here. You have a great track record, but I don't think you're going to be well situated in a group learning environment or group work program. And unfortunately, that's some of the realities that I've learned. That your personality, that your social dynamics, how adept you are at intermingling in a social environment plays a huge part in whether or not people want to hire you, depending on the job.
So when you hire people, what are you looking for?
We have a set criteria, which I don't think I can divulge with you. But first and foremost, we want to know that someone's competent and that they're good enough at what they do. And so like certain grades of certain classes, whether or not they challenge themselves, we're not actually looking for the cream of the crop because we're still a teaching environment. We're not Tesla or Apple who are looking for the best engineers and then have an infrastructure to support them socially, dynamically after that. We just want to know that you're good enough where if we try to teach you things, your fundamentals are there to support that. Like you don't need to be scoring A pluses and everything, as long as you don't have a C or a D in anything. And even if you do, that's not really a big issue. That means you're good enough at everything that you should have learned, and we can take it from there. And from that point on, your grades don't really matter that much unless it comes down to that. We want to know what you did in the past, how well you get along with people. If you can speak another language, that's important in this global world of co-working in terms of collaborations of neural networks, AI, stuff like that. We want to know if you work well in the group environment. We want to know if you communicate well, the ideas that you have. We want to know if you speak up or not. That, hey, you're going home, you're in the shower, you think of this idea. Are you going to jot it down? Are you going to communicate it with us? Or are you going to keep it to yourself and not necessarily be a loud person? We want loud people. So that's something that I've learned about the criterion. If it comes down to two people who have everything in that respect, then we might look at their grades just, to break the tie. But it's fascinating to know that a lot of times a good enough grade just puts you on par with everyone else and even the people with the best grades. And a lot of the others would be your extracurricular activities, what you did in the past, how well you got along with people, and how well you present yourself in an interview. Like, are you likable or not?
Yeah, but how to stand out from the crowd, and how can Sizigi, in your opinion, help in the application process?
There are definitely people who have a vibrant personality, who work well, who you just think, hey, this kid has a lot of friends, they do well. And that's not saying that every employer is going to be looking for that. I'm sure if you're applying for, I don't know, like a windmill maintenance worker, then they want someone who can stand solitude for a long time. But we have certain things that we look for, and a lot of that comes through in the interview process. And we're lucky in the sense that we look for personality traits, co-working experience, where we can tell from the energy of someone in the interview whether or not we like that person. And then we discuss the quantitatives afterwards. But we don't get a lot of that until we interview someone. And whether or not we give someone an interview, it comes down to a lot of guessing and speculation. And if someone has like an internet presence, then we will look into that. And if we think, hey, this person's kind of cool, they're using their time well, they're productive, they get along, they're a fun person, then we'll give them an interview. Or at least I will. I don't know how my coworkers or colleagues deal with their internships, but that's generally what me and my supervisor talk about when I'm looking for an intern.
But sometimes it takes dozens of applications just to get to that interview.
Yeah, and that can definitely be a struggle. And I'm not sure how I can help you there, other than saying, hey, if you have impressive things on your CV, that definitely goes a long way. And then it comes down to the root problem of like, hey, how do I get into these impressive internship programs?
Right. I really want to talk about your YouTube channel, Vicarious Voyager.
Okay.
Tell me about YouTube and the creation of the channel. How did it all start?
That's a good question. It started when my girlfriend bought me a camera. I was traveling a lot for work, and she said, "Hey, you should go take some pictures and videos while you're abroad, and just save them, like instead of just taking it on your phone." And I've always liked making videos. I've been making videos since I was in elementary school. I remember this one year my mom sent me to filmmaking camp, and I made some really inappropriate films, and no one was happy with them apart from me. Uh, so it kind of started from there. It's always just been a hobby. And at one point, because of work, I get to choose my flights, my travel itineraries, and luckily I get them paid for. So then you're like left as a kid in a candy shop. So I peruse the internet on YouTube and other websites to look for, hey, what does this airline offer? What does that airline offer? And I look through these videos, and sometimes I'm thinking, I really wish this person showed a little bit more of this or that, and I would like more details on that. And I thought, okay, maybe I can do a better job, especially of airlines that are a little bit more obscure that people don't have a video about yet. So then I started uploading videos. I'm a little fastidious about the details. So there have been a lot of videos that I've filmed in the past, not anymore really, that I have not uploaded, either because the footage is really not great or I'm not happy with how I presented certain things. So it started from there, and then I got some traction, and then a lot of people started watching them relative to someone starting off on YouTube, I suppose. So that just I kept going. Plus, my parents love watching them, and they're far away, and I don't get to really experience a whole lot of things with them. So that's a major driving force. My mom loves watching my videos, which is a huge part of the reason why I make them, and I tailored them for her humor, and which she can bear with me being annoying.
It's a great way to use your creativity. Do you use your creativity at work?
No, work is a lot of math, and it really does stifle that part of you. You do think about abstract things, but as a kid, I like to draw. I like to animate. I like to do all that kind of things, those kind of things. So that's been sorely missing from my life in the past couple of years. And the YouTube time is my end of the day relaxing time, whether I'm animating or I'm doing voiceovers or I'm being stupid and writing down what I want to say in my video. A lot of that time used to go towards like playing video games or watching movies or TV shows. And after I started making videos, I thought I'm getting as much enjoyment out of this as I am doing all those things, and I have something to show for it. So why not? Part of the reason why they come out that like not very often, I might come out with a video every 2 or 3 weeks, to a lot of people's chagrin. But it is my leisure time. I'm not dedicating too much energy towards it, so I mean,
But the
they can deal
videos
with it.
are amazing.
Well,
It
thank
took you a
you.
lot of time. It looks like you've been doing them for weeks. There's a
Yeah,
lot to do.
typically like a 30-minute video will take about 100 hours to finish from beginning to end. Can I spend 50 hours and come out with a comparable product? Probably, but I go back and make a lot of little changes just because I'm kind of a little stuck up with the details and going after perfection. I think I've gotten a little bit better, just knowing that my videos aren't the best of the best and they never will be, so it doesn't really matter.
I think they are one of the best videos out there for traveling.
Uh, I disagree, but thank you.
How did you react when you saw your video reach 1 million views for the first time?
I think I was in Vancouver on a work trip, and one of the people I worked with told me, and I was like, "Oh God, you watch my videos? Oh my Lord!" And I was kind of embarrassed and didn't really think about it. Um, but then I did, and I was like, "Okay, that's kind of cool." Also, like a million people saw that I have really chapped, cracked lips at the beginning of that video, and I was a little embarrassed by that. But I don't know; these are abstract numbers. You don't get to meet these people individually. So I think, hey, this is cool, but it's not something I strive for. And it's not something that I was like, oh, I'm going to be so happy when I get a certain number of subscribers or a certain number of views. Um, I'm kind of glad that people like my content enough to spend that much time watching it. That's kind of flattering. But apart from that, it's I don't think I felt too much about it.
But I think also you unintentionally create a community where you can see people in comments, they're chatting, learning more about each other.
Oh no, that's absolutely very nice. I've started giving a little bit more advice on how to travel at the end of my videos because oftentimes when I only had an Instagram presence or when I was talking to people I know on a personal level or when YouTube just started, I have a lot of big long comments from generally retirees, older people who are looking for a once in a lifetime vacation and they're asking me, should we do this or that? Like, what do you think would be a good expenditure of our money? My wife likes so and so. What would you suggest? Do you think we should go out of our way a little bit to get into a nicer cabin, to fly first class or business class? And I spend a lot of time giving them advice on that and how best they could spend their money. So I'm really glad that there's a whole community of like, hey, like this is what you should do. This is how you will get the most bang out of your buck. And a lot of people reference my videos like, hey, you can either fly this airline or that airline. And this guy does a pretty solid job of showing you what the experience is like on both, and that's how. Those are the best comments when people say, "Hey, I booked this because I saw your video. It didn't disappoint. It was great." And sometimes I have airlines who contact me. It's like, "Hey, we just had a couple on their 50th anniversary check in to our so and so lounge, and they said they watched your videos. That's why they chose our product. So, like, thank you very much." Um, and I've gotten a couple of airplane models out of that, which I suppose is a form of bribery, but hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, you got to press the line behind you.
Oh, there's a couple, and there are a few more up over there.
All right.
So yeah,
I see Qantas.
no, you don't, sir. That's
I don't.
that's
Sorry.
Cathay Dragon over there, Cathay
I do
Pacific,
apologize.
former of which doesn't exist anymore, sadly.
I
But
need to
yeah,
watch more of your videos.
no, I can.
I'll get
It does
better.
look like Qantas. It does. The kangaroo and what do they call? Oh, the brush tail are similar, I suppose.
What do you like about planes? Is it the plane that excites you, or
Um, I don't think so. Okay, this is coming from someone who did aerospace engineering. Planes are cool. Don't get me wrong; they're absolutely fascinating. But traveling is cooler. Like you get to go places that a generation ago was impossible. That 2 generations ago was the realm of the richest of the rich. You can go see other parts of the world. You can learn about different cultures, see their way of life, experience their food, all for not too much expenditure. And people complain about, oh, how flying is expensive. Yeah, it is. But at the same time, the knowledge and the experiences you gain from it are just priceless. And it's something that still should boggle everyone's mind. You're in this pressurized tube going across the sky, and everything is normal, everything's very livable, and you're getting peanuts and juices. And if you pay a lot more, a really nice meal when all of this should be technically impossible. Just the physics of it makes it insane. Um, and it makes you think a lot. I like the fact that planes make you think a lot, whether it be the lack of Wi-Fi and you having to look out the window and fathom life, but also it shows the pinnacle of human development in terms of economics and technology. Compare it to our toilets. We use fresh water to flush our human waste down the drain, and that's a technology that hasn't really changed for 150 years. That can definitely be improved upon, and that just and now you have the same toilets on an airplane that's flying across the sky 35,000 feet up. That's insane. It just it's like a very bright spotlight on humanity, I think, air travel and how that works with our everyday life.
what was your favorite trip?
I think it's always going home, back to my hometown in China, where my grandparents are. That's usually my favorite trip, just going home. And I think a lot of people can relate, but especially for me, I come from a small town in China, and seeing it change year over year over year is crazy. When I was a kid, going back to my hometown in Hubei province would typically from the Middle East, involve a 10-hour flight to Beijing or Hong Kong, and then a whole 30 hours of trains and planes just to get to my hometown. Nowadays, they have an airport, a very nice airport. They blasted open a mountain, spent a couple $1 billion, not a big deal. And now it's just a layover away, and it's still my favorite part of traveling. It's just going home. Also, going home to see my parents in Saudi Arabia. That's one of the favorite feelings of landing in Riyadh.
Is there a place where you still haven't been to?
Kind of want to go to Antarctica. That'd be really cool. And I know you can do it from Chile or Argentina. It's kind of expensive, but it'd be pretty special occasion.
Right.
Like I'm used to the cold now that I've moved back to Toronto, so I think I can deal with that.
How's the weather like now?
It's terrible. It's freezing outside. It's miserable, and because you have to wear a mask, just snot gets all over it, so you have to change it out quite frequently. I know that's not a pretty picture, but it is reality here.
I think it's warmer in the mask.
Yeah, but then you start like fluids start coming out of your nose, and then it's wet, and then it freezes, and then it's disgusting. Especially if you wear glasses, you can't see the moment you go indoors.
I used to
wear
glasses.
You are blind. Yeah.
I think in the last part of this conversation, we should talk about your future.
Mhm.
Like, what is your dream? What are your aspirations now? Did they change? What do you want to do in the future?
I don't know. It changes
That's a tough
year on year.
question.
Like 2 years ago, I was like, "Hey, maybe I can be the best at certain things." These days, I'm like, I'm getting old. Things start hurting. Mind you, I thought I was 26 this year. I'm only 25, but I feel a lot older. And
I feel you.
yeah, it's. I'm thinking also about like, hey, do I want kids? When do I want kids? How would a family affect what I'm doing? And a lot of these things come into question. And I've been talking to a lot of people in my professions that I dabble in, and perhaps they're older and they're more jaded. But I've been like, maybe you shouldn't be so ambitious with your career, because it definitely puts brakes on your personal life a little bit, and there needs to be a work-life balance, and to spend time thinking about your family and starting one, and how you're going to budget time for that. So it's been kind of bothering me, or not really, occupying my mind lately. So I'm not sure.
Right.
I still like giving everything. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I just have a question from Mark over here. He's
Mhm.
asking you, what do you think about current political situation in China?
It's a great question. One that a lot of people wouldn't speak about. And I don't know the ins and outs of the Chinese government or the structure, so I'm no expert. But as a Chinese person, and someone who spends equal amount of time thinking about the reality in the Western world, North America, where I live, in China, it doesn't really matter, because what are you going to do about it? And here's the thing, like, there's a narrative on both sides of things. There's a Western narrative, there's a Chinese narrative, but the thing is, everyone goes on with their lives, and as long as people's lives get better, no one's in a hurry to do anything. And the third thing is, having grown up in the Middle East, there's a price to pay. Like, not everyone's happy with the Chinese government, the Communist Party inside and outside of China, but what are you going to do about it? And the perspective I have, talking to a lot of friends that I grew up with from certain countries like Egypt and Libya and Syria, is, hey, life could be pretty crappy, but it could be a lot worse if you try doing something about it. Like, Syria, Iraq, Egypt. So there's a balance. It's very fragile. Politics is fragile. The dynamics of life is fragile. You could be living in a kind of not great country to suddenly living in a war zone. So it's
Yeah.
it's nothing that really occupies my mind. I definitely feel like people need their civil liberties to be able to speak their mind. But at the same time, if you look at humanities, there's this hierarchy of need, and first you need to satisfy the bottom tiers of, hey, safety and security and survival. Then you can start thinking about, what do I want to do with my life? Is there fulfillment in my life? And I don't know. I wish the whole world was a little bit more amicable with one another, and some people were willing to take a couple sacrifices so other people could live a significantly better life. But unfortunately, the world is selfish in a way. Um, for example, like $1 or $2 to us here in the Western world means absolutely nothing. We could drop that on the ground and perhaps think about, well, maybe I won't pick that up because I can't be bothered. But that little difference makes a huge difference. That little difference to your life makes a huge difference to people in other parts of the world. But just from the fallacy of humans having this empathy horizon, you don't really care about things you don't see. We're inherently selfish beings. And on a political level, on a country to country level, that's also true. So it is messy, and there's no right answer. And as long as, people's lives are getting better wherever they are, I don't have a say on anything. Really, it's not my place to say.
I think you'd be a great politician, actually.
I'd hate it. I'd want to kill myself. So no, thank you.
We also have one comment from Stacho. He's saying that, take it easy, dude. I'm 39. You're so young. I enjoy your videos very much. Greeting from Argentina.
Oh, hello. I wanted to go to Argentina. It's beautiful. Always wanted to go to Patagonia. A couple of friends of mine went, but thank you. I feel that's true. I feel like you get into the slump for a little while. I think I've just been hanging out with people who are a little bit older than I am, who are a little bit more jaded than I am. And maybe I should make friends with younger people, but at the same time, I don't smoke weed, so that makes my options a little more limited.
Any last things to say before we sign off?
No, I just want to say thank you for taking this opportunity. And for taking your time. This is really fun.
Well, this has been a great time talking to you. I am certain that soon we will be celebrating your first 1,000,000 subscribers, your 1,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, sorry, on YouTube. But for now, it's time to get back to work. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation, and we at Sizigi are really for innovation and creativity. So Citizen shows a great example of just that. You can also follow him on YouTube and Instagram, links down below. And also you can visit our website, joinsizigi.com, to start your own professional journey. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Right.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.